a little routine we've developed from chapter 4. Can you find chapter 4 in there? All right, okay. All right, this is called Heckling the Right Wing. Their top 10 talking points and Mr. Eisner's top 10 comebacks. So I will be the right wing, and Mr. Eisner will
Be the left.
answer. Okay. All right, number 1. The framers were all devout Christians.
You think everyone was a devout Christian. You probably think Jesus was a devout Christian.
Bill, is that okay? The framers were opposed to taxation.
The first day in office, Washington as president, Hamilton as his secretary of the Treasury, taxed carriages and whiskey, then opened a bank to put the money in.
Number 3, the greatest influence on the Constitution was the Bible.
And why doesn't the preamble read, "We the chosen people"?
4, to understand the Constitution, you have to read the Federalist Papers.
Nobody can read the Federalist Papers. Madison and Hamilton wrote the damn things, and they couldn't read the Federalist Papers.
5, the Constitution gives everyone the right to own a gun.
The framers didn't want everyone to have a vote, let alone a gun.
6, the Constitution does not grant homosexuals the right to marry.
The Constitution also does not grant the right of homosexuals to win all the Tonys.
The framers were a diverse group.
The framers were as diverse a group as the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
8, James Madison is the author of the Constitution.
The Constitution is the greatest cut and paste job since the New Testament.
Okay, you have to think about that one. 9, the framers believed in term limits.
I'm with you on that. I figure if a congressman can't steal enough money in 3 terms, he's too dumb to hold the job in the first place.
And last, 10, the only way to interpret the Constitution is to determine what the framers were thinking when they wrote it.
You can't even figure out how the framers took a piss in pants without a fly. How do you expect to figure out what they were thinking? I had teenagers. I never knew what they were thinking. I guess I'm lucky that they had brains. And we lived in the same house. Hell, I don't even know what I'm thinking half the time.
Okay, and that's the 10 responses to the major. One afternoon, while walking the aisles of Romans, downstairs, I came across this book. And figured, this would be some research that we could use. Constitution for Dummies. And then, strangely enough, I found that the introduction or foreword, only 3 pages, was written by Ted Cruz. Amazingly, when he was an attorney at a billion-dollar law firm. And it's only 3 pages. In there, he makes some points about the Constitution, almost all wrong. And we've answered that in the book. An open letter to Ted Cruz based upon this foreword that he wrote. Again, only 3 pages, not being paid by the hour. He kept it limited. So we're going to edit this. This has already been edited. We're not answering tonight all the assumptions he makes about the Constitution. And this is the general letter, open letter to Ted Cruz.
Open letter to Senator Ted Cruz. written in the style of 1787. If you shot Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody would convict you. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina.
Now the letter begins in the style of 1787.
To the Right Honorable U.S. Senator from the state of Texas, Theodore Cruz. I am prompted to write this upon discovery of a foreword you penned to U.S. Constitution for Dummies. In it, you make assertions about our American Constitution that I, as one of the country's citizens, feel compelled to respond to. Before I proceed, however, with the main body of my argument, I would like to observe that none of my comments are meant to be taken in any way as personal. Unlike our current president, I am not given to reckless, unfounded assaults on a man's good name. I refer, of course, to the calumny perpetrated by the aforesaid president when he repeated as gospel the conspiracy theories promulgated in the worthless pages of that so-called magazine known as the National Enquirer, in which your father was named in connection with Lee Harvey Oswald's assassination of John F. Kennedy. I should mention that I myself am choosing, no, that's not it. I myself am not a reader of that scandal sheet, finding in it small lies heaped upon greater ones. That's the National Enquirer, of course. Though I will confess that when idling at my local supermarket, I have been drawn to its pages, especially when they feature compelling essays like who's gay and who's not, as well as various close-up photographs featuring the cellulite of assorted well-known personages. That you were able to deflect the scurrilous attacks made on your father and later your wife with such equanimity, and then to endorse the man who repeated them only attests to the forgiving, faith-based charity of your good nature. Others might judge you harshly for choosing sycophantism over loyalty to your own family, but not I. I leave that a matter to be decided eventually between you and your maker, forgive me. All I know is that a lesser man such as myself would have certainly harbored a lifetime of grudges and recrimination. But I digress. As I stated earlier, this missive is only meant to respond as best I can to the 5 assertions you made in your foreword regarding our nation's Constitution. I now proceed to demolish those assertions. In summary, sir, I find your assertions about the Constitution to be nothing more than an assorted pack of half-truths, misstated facts, and downright lies, dissembling and disinformation employed by you in the service of your own misguided principles of justice. I have read where your former Harvard law professor, Alan J. Dershowitz, once proclaimed you a brilliant legal mind. Have you then, since then, lost all sense of reason? Has your once brilliant mind been o'erthrown by political expediency, so poisoned by ambition that truth-telling has become obsolete a neglected vocation beyond your lexicon? Answer me! For you, sir, have become in no uncertain way monarch of mendacity, devotee of deception, prince of pretense. If one of the great dangers to our democracy is the pestilence of sophistry, then you now border on treachery, if not treason. To put it blunt but fair, you, sir, are a dangerous man, and one not to be trusted with the reins of government. I recognize the severity of my words, writing as I do in so public a forum, but I hereby stand behind each and every one of them. I also recognize that you, as a man of honor, may choose, as is your right, to demand satisfaction from me for their issuance. Yes. In which case, I will be most assuredly willing to oblige should that be your course of action. As you well know, there are still states in the Union that permit men such as ourselves to go into the woods with dueling pistols and try to kill one another. I await your response. Your seconds can contact my seconds at William Morris Endeavor at their Beverly Hills office. Whilst this vital flame exists within me, I remain your most staunch adversary, Edward Asner.